Welcome to Talking Giants player profiles and projections. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Pennick. And we got a couple of 2019 draft picks and Dexter Lawrence, but we're going to start with Darius Slayton, who's 6'1", 190 pounds, 25 years old, who again was a 2019 fifth-round pick. Possibly the best day 3 Dave Gettleman pick, but that might be used against him right now because it got him a pay bump up to $2.5 million for over exceeding his draft slot as far as playing time. Slayton had started with the highest highs, and now he's down at the lowest lows. And right now, saying he deserves to be on this roster is not
it's a hot take.
It's not something that everybody agrees with right now. And we're going to go through it. I kind of want to go through the career of Slayton real quickly. 2019, he missed most of training camp in the first 2 games of the season, but left a huge mark as soon as he stepped on the field and was the Giants' #1 wide receiver that year with 48 catches, 740 yards, and 8 touchdowns in 14 games. In 2020, he was asked to be the true wide receiver 1 from the start and was that, but not in a good way. He had 50 catches, 751 yards, and 3 touchdowns, but was obviously not suited for the wide receiver 1 role. They add Kenny Golladay, draft Kadarius Toney in 2021. Even with the less expectations, he was a total letdown. He had 26 catches, 339 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 44% catch rate. He had his career worst by a good margin in receptions per game, yards per game, catch rate, yards per catch, yards per target, and probably the worst of all, he had a 10% drop rate. That is unbelievable. That's like a few points higher than Evan Ingram's in 2020, 10%. He had 3 of 13 games with 0 catches. Justin, I think at best he is clearly wide receiver 5 when Shep is healthy, but I do think he belongs on this roster.
Hot take.
Well, and I don't care about the fact that you'd save $1.5 million cap with cutting him. I think Darius Slayton is too good to just cut flat out.
Yeah.
Okay. If there could be a trade partner, 2 weeks from now. But I also think even if he goes throughout this year, I think he might, come into the comp pick formula possibly. I just think cutting him outright is short-sighted for this year.
There are some bad sound bites of me out there talking about Darius Slayton, and this episode may be one of them. But I feel like the more that people have started to hate him, and not just hate him, people despise Darius Slayton. Now,
I will say
when I have started to like him more.
But here's the thing with that, and why a lot of it is deserved with Slayton. Even obviously it goes too far, but the quickest way to a fan's hate is drops, and Slayton has bad drops, and at the worst of times, third downs.
He catches that Washington touchdown, and he could have that 10% drop rate, which is really, really bad. But he catches that Washington touchdown, and we maybe win that game. Man, is
definitely win that game.
Is the season maybe not a little different? And definitely the perception on Darius Slayton is a lot different.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing.
But he dropped it.
Yeah, but again, I don't think you can just throw away. Even was 2020 disappointing for some people? Yes,
it was. But he also led everybody.
But he led the team in receiving in Jason Garrett's offense.
It was disappointing for everyone.
He was a 5th-round pick in his second year in a disappointing season with 50 catches, 750 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And I think he was dealing with a little bit of an ankle issue after that Washington game, where he had his 3rd touchdown in the first 5 games of the season.
That was my big conspiracy.
Had 200-plus yard games in the first 5 games of the season versus Pittsburgh and then versus Dallas. So again, he's been put down the depth chart, but there's also been times where he's been needed when guys were hurt and he didn't step up. So I don't want to act like last year just wasn't his fault. He was a total letdown last year. Yeah. 2021 was a total letdown, even from the expectations, as a 5th-round pick. If you said a 5th-round pick had the numbers that he had in year 3, you would say that's probably not a guy who's on the team long term. Yeah. But you can't erase the other 2 years, and you're in a better offensive system. And I want to say something too. Is that, he's wide receiver 5. Why save the cap space? He's not going to be wide receiver 5 in week 9. Because guess what? We have
in this offense.
3 of the guys ahead of him have serious injuries, injury histories. Shep, we don't even know what to expect out of him this year. Toney has had 6 injuries last year, and Galladay's missed games almost every single year except for 2019. So he's more valuable to me than all these other guys who may contribute special teams wise, and I also think he can contribute. Like, why can't Darius Slayton be on the kickoff team? Like, I've never seen why. He just didn't contribute on it because he was a starting wide receiver for the last 3 years. That's the reason why I didn't contribute. Like, if he didn't have that jump that he had, like put into that role that he was put in 2019, I bet you they would have put him on special teams. But guess what? They didn't want their wide receiver one for 2 years playing special teams.
Yeah. All right. Before I talk bad about Darius Slayton a little bit, I'll talk good about him. And I'm going to do something that's going to make a lot of Giants fans probably very angry with me. I'm going to compare his career to Mario Manningham. And we're going to look at Mario Manningham's per-game stats throughout his career and Darius Slayton's per-game stats throughout his career. How much do you want to get? We'll start off with Slayton. Per-game stats. How much do you want to guess how many balls he's caught per game?
Slayton? Through his whole career?
Yeah, like on average.
I'd say 4.
3.
Okay.
3. 2.9. Mario Manningham, 3.1. Yards per game throughout his career. Mario Manningham, 42.5. Darius Slayton, 42.6. Touchdowns per game. Mario Manningham, 0.3. Darius Slayton, 0.3. Those are nearly identical to each other. Mario Manningham had a great 2011 postseason, helped us win a Super Bowl. So yes, we exalt him and we hold him up as he rightly deserves so. But Mario Manningham and Darius Slayton have basically had the same career.
Yeah, the argument against that is that it was his best was his first year, and also like Manningham's career didn't really do great once he left.
Right.
NYG, and he was the clearly number wide receiver 3 on those teams. But again, like, you don't cut Mario Manningham, like right now he's wide receiver 5. Like, I think honestly, you put him up against any wide receiver 5 in the NFL, and I think you'd be happy with Slayton.
Yeah. It's like, do you really prefer Colin Johnson over Darius Slayton?
Absolutely not.
Look at yourself in the mirror.
I absolutely
do you prefer Colin Johnson over Darius Slayton? It's like, you can hate him, you can not like him. But does that really, David Sills? Is that really the life that we want to live?
Let's talk about him as a player, though.
Yeah,
he does. He has that 4.3 speed with a 40-inch vertical that guys just don't have as a size, and that's how he has done well. His best attribute is he's very good versus press on outside releases down the field, which obviously hurt him a little bit in this the last 2 years.
You've seen it in camp a little bit.
That wasn't used a ton, even though he was. When the ball was thrown downfield, Slayton usually was the target of that the past couple of years. Needs to be better with inside releases, which really hurt him like in the past couple of years. Like, he just needs to be better with that release point, because if it's not press and outs and inside leverage and he's getting outside, that's where he struggled. The nuances of route running need work. You can't just be a fast guy. That can't be a role to a long NFL career, just being a fast guy. And especially when you have some of the drop issues, because there was times where it's like, hey, this he's running a dig and he would outside release. I remember even in that Washington game where he had a touchdown, was wide open for another touchdown, and there's a dig route and he gets outside release. And I remember Kurt Warner talking about it. It's like, your quarterback sees that and you're no longer part of the play. Like you can't have an outside release on that type of stuff. So those are the mental things that he needs to get past. And also the drops just have to stop. Like, they've happened at the worst time. Like, the past, the rookie year, they didn't see him much, but you did see him in year 2 despite the production. And they've always just happened at the worst times. Not even just the Washington one on Thursday night. It's just been like third down drops by Darius Slayton.
Yeah.
We've seen it time and time again on some easy catches. I don't know what it is, but he needs to work through that. But again, he is a guy, he's good wide receiver depth. He's a guy who can go up and climb the ladder and make some tough catches despite the drops. He's made, like, he can get that step and stack guys and beat guys deep where you gotta account for him. And when he does get a decent release, like on those slants or digs or whatever, like he's been a guy who's been able to catch it, make those catches. So again, I think it all has to, your thoughts of Darius Slayton have to do with are your expectations the 2022 expectations, or are they the 2020 expectations?
Right. Or where I've gotten on Slayton in the past, and there was a certain point where I was really, really off on him, is that the last couple of years he has been one of the worst in the NFL in yards after the catch, and he's been one of the worst in the NFL at separating. I don't love looking at wide receiver separation on a week in, week out basis, or to fully evaluate you as a football player, because some of the best wide receivers in the NFL are bad at separating, but they can get then they can make plays in other ways. But yards after the catch, I mean, if you're bad at both of those things and you ain't just you're not giving us anything in one of those advanced categories, and Darius Slayton is not this contested catch guy like a Detroit Lions Kenny Galladay was, it's not a great formula. But again, I look at myself in the mirror and I say, do I prefer him or do I prefer Colin Johnson? Do I prefer him or do I prefer CJ Board? And I will still prefer Darius Slayton over those guys.
Definitely. All right, let's get on to Dexter Lawrence. Before that, let's talk about a place that Dexter Lawrence would love to eat.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, remember Darius Slayton?
Got that right.
Remember he had a tweet saying, like, what's the best burger town in New York City?
Bareburger.
Or burger restaurant? Bareburger.
We're in the Manhattan.
We need to go retroactively find that tweet and quote tweet it.
We're in the Manhattan office at John Boy Media. And there's a Bareburger that is a half a mile away from us. Isn't it crazy? I think it's a 10-minute drive in New York City, but we're not going to do that. Probably going to get it nice and delivered. Because Bareburger, they got something for everyone. They even got something for you. Excited to talk about Dexter Lawrence, how he looks a little bit more beefier this year. They got a lot of beef burgers. They also have, if you're vegan, if you're 100% vegan, Bareburger, they got options for you. There's only one dietary restriction you'll be limited to, and that's food that's made to taste great. They have a happy hour that's the best in New York City, 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. Monday to Friday in New York City, where we are right now. There's a ton of locations in New York City, including Brooklyn. Where Brooklyn at? Where is Brooklyn at? In a bad spot with the Nets. Exotic burgers are back. Elk burgers, ostrich burgers, bison burgers, Bareburger Kitchen Bar, 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. Monday to Friday. They have a lunch special, $14.95, all served with fries. Good fries, too. Nice little seasoning they put on it. Click the link in our description to find yourself at your favorite new happy hour spot, burger joint and luncheon, Bareburger Kitchen and Bar. Thanks for sponsoring the PPPs.
So this is going out on Wednesday, August 17th.
Yeah.
I just scheduled a quote tweet.
Great.
Of Darius Slayton's best burger in Manhattan. Drop them, and I said, check out Bareburger. So that's scheduled.
Bareburger.
All right, let's talk about Dexter Lawrence, though. Another guy from the 2019 draft class. He's 6'4", 342 pounds, 24-year-old first-round pick out of Clemson, heading in the year 4, and he had his fifth-year option picked up unlike DeAndre Baker and Daniel Jones. $10.7 million contract was picked up. Beginning of March, we talked about, do you pick up Dexter Lawrence's option? I said no. Then I saw the free agent market for the defensive tackles.
Austin Johnson got, yeah.
And B.J. Hill and other guys, and I said, and then I thought it was an easy choice to pick it up. Stat-wise, the last 3 years, he last year 54 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 5 tackles for a loss. 2020, 53 tackles, 4 sacks, 6 tackles for a loss, very similar. And then 19, where he didn't get as much playing time, 38 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 3 tackles for a loss. Justin, I want to talk about the ins and outs of Dexter Lawrence because he is there does rely some nuance to him, but I think a way to describe Dexter Lawrence is someone who's a good player, but he needs to be better at finishing. And I have the numbers that back it up because you're going to see it like, oh, he's good in these categories, but then the actual category of like sacks or tackles for loss, he's low in those. So yeah. I think that's a good way to talk about Dexter Lawrence, and for him to fulfill his draft slot, he needs to be a finisher.
Yeah, fulfilling the draft slot for sure, but or
even his potential though.
Yeah,
to fulfill his potential, not even just going by like, oh, this guy was drafted here, this is what but like the potential that is there with Dexter Lawrence. That's what he needs to be. Yeah,
my brain is a little bit different where. At this point, I want Dexter Lawrence to return to the player that he was in 2020, where NFL national people were clipping up Dexter Lawrence plays and being like, look at how good this guy is. Because I was not there in 2021. That's what I want him to return to that kind of player. I'm not like, I think in a defense that is going to be Wink Martindale's defense, there's going to be quarterbacks that are getting rid of the ball very quickly. And I don't know if Dexter Lawrence, at least in the pass rushing categories, tackle for loss is a different story. I don't know if Dexter Lawrence is going to have the time to get his hands on the quarterback to even finish plays.
But he should have more than 2.5 sacks.
Sure.
So let's talk about him in the run game, though, first, since he's more of a run player than a pass rusher. He's been a good player, eating double teams, shedding blocks. But again, this is where I want him to become more of a finisher than just sacks. Tackles for a loss.
Absolutely.
Tackles for a loss and run stops. Like, he needs to be a more difference maker to fulfill his potential. And also not just win reps. I think he needs to dominate reps instead of just winning them. Because Dexter Lawrence wins a lot of reps. There's not a ton of dominant reps from Dexter Lawrence. And I actually think moving him to nose tackle a little more will help him pop a little bit because he's going against centers. Less double teams versus tackles. Now you got center and guard double teams where he's going to win the athletic battle with those guys a lot of times, and obviously he has the strength too. And then like stat wise, 13th in tackles. But 24th in run stop percentage, and then 38th in tackles for a loss for defensive tackles. That's behind Leonard Williams. That's understandable. Austin Johnson and BJ Hill. On a roster that he was on, 4 of those guys had more tackles for a loss than him this past year. So that's where, when I say about finishing, is he going to guy who's going to get 6.5? Like, is he going to have a Leonard Williams type pass rush production?
No. Never
ever will he have that. Never ever will he be the guy that finishes like that. Like more than 2.5, but he'll never be that guy. But he can't be a 5.63 tackle for a loss guy. He needs 10 plus. For him to be the player that we bring back long term, needs to be 10 plus tackles for a loss to fulfill his potential.
So where did Dexter Lawrence fit on the defense last year that was the worst against the run in 2021? Like, was it in spite of Dexter Lawrence that it was bad? Like, do you understand that question when I asked that?
Yeah, well, one, like I said, he needs to dominate reps instead of just win them, because you can win a rep and, a guy's going on the other gap. Now, teams did get a lot of their damage on outside the tackle runs. There's nothing Dexter Lawrence can do.
Yeah, Blake,
that.
When you lose Blake, yeah.
But just Dex specific, he needs to dominate reps.
Yeah.
Again, not win reps, dominate reps. You mentioned we were talking about Kayvon with the, this amount of, won this rep or this sack in this amount of seconds. So I'm not talking about sacks, but you know what? Let's not have wins in the 1.5 to 2.5 seconds. Let's have, hey, I just won this block initially.
Yeah.
And we're clipping this up on Monday night, going through all 22 and being like, look, shed this block totally in the hole, either for a tackle for a loss by him or it's forcing a tackle for a loss for somebody else. Those are the type of plays I need out of Dexter Lawrence in the run game.
Yeah. No, I agree. I flat out agree with you. Especially, we're going to go from 3 tackles for loss his rookie year, 6 tackles for loss in 2020, and then 5 tackles for loss this year. That would be quite a big jump to get to 10.
But he has that athletic potential, and he's been a good player in his career. But for him to take the step forward, that's the type of guy he has to be. And especially, we're going to talk about his pass rush ability because, like I said, I want more than 2.5 sacks, but I'm not expecting 6-7 sacks out of Dexter Lawrence.
Right.
I would like 3 to 5, I guess, every year. Let's let 3 sacks be a down year for Dexter Lawrence.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not getting hung up on sacks, but with the way that he's never going to be one of those best pass rushing defensive tackles in the NFL, he needs to be more dominant in the run game. Not a really good run defender, but a dominant run defender.
No, and how I view Dexter Lawrence's season, I think a lot of it will have to do with where the Giants' run defense stacks up this year. Because Wink Martindale's defense, they've been susceptible to allowing some big plays, but that's not really Dexter Lawrence's department. Dexter Lawrence's department is, are you going to stop the run? Wink Martindale's defense, despite being bad in some categories, they've always been good in stopping the run. So I'm hoping that stays consistent, and Dexter Lawrence is a huge part of it.
Definitely. Let's talk about him as a pass rusher. This is how I'll say it. He has a good pass rush ability, pushes the pocket back, and wins reps, but he doesn't close on the QB. And that's something that I'm not expecting to get better with Dexter Lawrence at 350 pounds.
Yeah.
He's never going to be a guy that just totally closes in on the QB. But what he can do is not just have good pass rush ability and ability to win and push the pocket back, but have quicker initial wins, one. But also I think having an edge presence, and Wink Martindale is going to make us appreciate Dex in the pass rush game a little more, because our edge presence the last 2 years is it doesn't matter if you push the pocket back. The edges aren't being pushed in, and quarterbacks feel comfortable. And then you don't have to, Leonard Williams has been the main pass rusher, essentially. So that's what he is. But and again, I think this tells the story on him. For defensive tackles, he was 15th in pass rush win rate, 17th in pressure percentage, 10th in hits, by the way.
Yeah.
But 32nd in sacks. That tells the story of Dexter Lawrence as a pass rusher.
Yeah. QB hits, as his career has gone on, through his first 3 years, 9, 10, 11. Pressures, according to Pro Football Reference, as his career has gone on his first 3 years. 15, 16, 17. So I have your projection right here. He's going to have 12 QB hits, and he's going to have 18 pressures. There you go.
Yeah. And again, that's why people are like, oh, well, he's a 2-down player. It's no, he's not. He's never going to be a sack getter.
This was his best pass rushing year on a down in, down out basis this past year than any other year for Dexter Lawrence.
Yeah, but I want him to
finish
to set. Yeah, well, I don't even need him to finish a ton in the pass game. I'm more talking about the run game with that. But with a better edge presence, I do think there will be some better appreciation of Dexter Lawrence as a pass rusher. Like, he's never going to be thought of as like a pass rushing defense tackle in the NFL because he's not. Because to be thought of that, you have to get sacks, and Dexter Lawrence is never going to be a guy that gets a ton of sacks. But I think 15th in pass rush win rate, 17th in pressure percentage, 10th in hits. Those are all good numbers. You could bump those up a little bit and be like, hey, those are awesome numbers, and don't worry about him not getting sacks. He's winning his reps as a pass rusher. So like I despise when people call Dexter Lawrence a 2-down player because he's not a 2-down player.
I'm gonna look up BJ Hill's contract right now.
$10 million a year.
$10 million a year.
That's what he's making this year.
You would think Dex is gonna get more.
Yes.
There's part of me that just says, man, do you give the resources out to 2 interior defensive linemen for a couple of years running, or do you just rely on, hey, the Giants as a franchise just have great luck. They D-tackle you. That's what our buddy Nicky Snacks calls the Giants. And then Joe Shane, they even have a pretty solid track record, I think, of drafting those interior defensive linemen too. So where's your brain on extension?
The Bills, the idea that you don't draft, I would look to get something done sooner than later with Dex instead of getting this to a contract and getting, because on the open market he's going to get good money.
He's going to get good money.
You mentioned it. I would use this 5th-year option as a way like let's get this done sooner rather than later, because I think the longer you wait on Dexter Lawrence, the more money he's going to cost.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Leonard Williams, but Dexter Lawrence won't be on a contract year until Leonard Williams' contract is not only available to be moved off from, but just ended. Like, Leonard Williams' contract will be totally off the books by time.
Yeah, he's going to be extended, Bobby.
Okay, but again, don't let that stop you from Dexter Lawrence. So you got anything else on Dex?
No, and honestly, just here, we'll leave it off on this. I don't know where my brain is at yet. For me, it will be a determination on how he plays this year, because honestly, if it's the same throughout his career, like if we're not creeping up the double-digit tackle for loss and we're still under 4 sacks, my brain's at kind of just draft another interior defensive lineman, as I feel like there's every year we talk about this mid-round, mid-draft interior defensive lineman that's available that can maybe do what he does.
Here's the thing with the New York Giants. We have not been able to keep any of our homegrown guys. Let's keep a guy who's been good.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not. We're going to be in healthy cap space. I don't want to just look at like, oh, just defensive tackles. Like, let's keep one guy that's been a homegrown player.
Yeah.
Just because this team is devoid of talent, that Dexter Lawrence not being amazing has made him disappointing in some people's lives. Let's not move off of him. So,
all right,
let's move off of this episode though. We'll see you guys tomorrow. So we appreciate you guys. Until then, let's go Big Blue.